Chidanand ji? Chidanand?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
स्टार्ट करें सर.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good evening. Namaste, everybody. Happy to see some new faces. Our good friends like Shakti Kumar are here. Special salutations to them. Without any such digressions, we have this evening a topic which is of tremendous relevance in modern times. It is said that in developing countries, they have problems of various basic needs, roti, kapda, or makan. But in developed countries, in America or in Europe, a major problem that is staring in the face of humanity is loneliness. A poet said to me long back, "We come alone, we go alone. Alas, in between we are more alone." With a poignant touch that
चिदानंद जी आपका म्यूट हो गया था.
yeah, right. There was a connectivity issue for half a minute. I hope I am now audible as well as visible, but looks like maybe okay, we can go on, but if it again troubles us, I have another source of internet. I will connect that. So, what is meant by we are more alone in between birth and death? That needs to be examined. And why under the sun are people in developed countries with wonderful facilities, high standard of living, and so on, feeling lonely? What is loneliness? Is loneliness something that is to be determined by an external observer? Somebody looks at a man or a lady from a distance and says, "Oh, that man is lonely. Look at this lady, she is lonely." Is it possible for a third party to decide whether somebody is lonely? We would say it doesn't work that way. Somebody may observe and say, "This man is alone, sitting alone over there. This woman is sitting all alone on that rock, on that bench." So that observation is possible. That is the physical status. She is sitting on the bench and there is nobody sitting next to her or behind her or around her. So one can say, "Look, can you see that lady there sitting alone on the bench?" Accepted. But does anyone have the right or the capacity to make a comment? "You know, that lady sitting that over there on the bench is feeling lonely." How on the earth do you know she is feeling lonely? So I'm trying to convey the distinction between being physically alone and feeling lonely. Thereby, I am making a few points clear, some definitions clear. Loneliness is a psychological matter. Somebody sitting with a large joint family watching television with some snacks and tea in hand may feel lonely, noticed or not noticed by the family members. The person may confess or may not admit the kind of loneliness he is experiencing. And somebody else, physically alone, may not feel loneliness at all. So, this is to further confirm that this matter which we are discussing this evening is a psychological phenomenon. So, what is loneliness? It is a sense, it is a conclusion by thought that there is nobody with me now. Nobody is really for me. Nobody here supports me, understands me. People have let me down, and looks like I have let them down also. Maybe another dimension. I am throwing some light on what is called psychology. What is psychology after all? A number of conclusions that this mind of ours arrives at. And those conclusions are very questionable. If you hold an apple before me and I look at it and conclude, this is an apple, and I say loudly, this is an apple, my friend, that is 100% acceptable. But a conclusion of the nature of self judgment, if I say to a friend of mine, look at my dress, and don't you feel I am a very poor man? Look at the car by which I came. Don't you think I am a rich person to come by this car? So, judgment of the nature of I am good, I am bad, I am high, I am low, or let me use more appropriate pair of words. A judgment of the nature of I am worthy, or at other times I am unworthy. I am a success, or I am a failure. Now, in these discussions, which may be called a discussion of religious topics, some of you may not like that word at all, so take it with a grain of salt. I would imagine these discussions are of a religious nature. And in religions out in the world, in what is called organized religion, oh, so many judgments are made on a human being. This person is a punyatma, holy man, and that person is a papi, a sinner. Such expressions are used. Now, organized religion or some other context, we must admit that you and I, as human beings living on this earth, are constantly affected by various forms of thinking. Somebody makes a comment at us, somebody labels us, some people gossip behind our back and say, this lady, this man has failed. And we come to know later on that some people were talking about us like that. Who among us, tell me friends, who among us can really remain unaffected when we hear that a bunch of people were talking about us like that? So psychology comes into the picture exactly in this fashion. We are influenced by what people say about us, what our family members say about us, what our peers, colleagues, people above us, or people who report to us talk about us. And all this is involved in creating this phantom called loneliness. I took the liberty of calling loneliness a phantom. You know, a phantom means someone who, upon questioning, disappears. A phantom figure is someone who is a legend or a myth, actually. It's a myth. I should use the word myth. If you inquire, that figure disappears. So loneliness is a phantom figure. But alas, the gravity of this phenomenon is such that the entire world is suffering from loneliness. I come from a certain background of sadhus and swamis and so on. I must share with you a quick and short episode. A colleague of mine in the ashram where I belonged many years ago was very popular. He gave lectures on Vedanta and was well received. And once he thought of going to the Himalayas for advanced spiritual practice, whatever that may be. And he went. But he returned within a month saying, I could not stay there. We asked him because we were envying him. Oh, he's having a good time in the Himalayas, whereas we have to work for the organization's objectives and so on. He came back and said, oh no, I could not stay there. And we asked him, why? Was the food not all right? Was the room given to you by some ashram there in Rishikesh or Uttarkashi not all right? Was the weather not all right? We asked him a number of questions, and he said that excellent food, beautiful room with a view of Gangaji, and excellent staff always asking me what I need, etc. But I felt terribly lonely, he said. He was a Swamiji and he felt lonely. Now, this is both a serious and a humorous example, and I hope you don't mind such examples once in a while. We asked, why did you feel lonely? He said, I didn't realize that over 10 or 15 years I had got so used to having audiences listening to me on the holy books. So over there, though all the facilities were excellent, since I didn't have people around me listening to a discourse on Gita or something and asking me questions and saying you lectured so well, etc., there was nobody. I felt miserable, he said. Honest person. He honestly realized that advising everybody on so-called spiritual topics had made him dependent on that setting. You are on the stage, you are speaking, and people are listening to you. And the human mind, that is your mind and my mind, gets attached to a certain status, certain position. Uh, like in the case of the Swamiji who felt miserable in Uttarkashi, he got so used to having people look up to him, listen to him, and maybe show respect to him and all that. And he missed it. Now, loneliness is something created by thought, and we know thought is response of memory. Therefore, there you go. Loneliness is nothing but memories persecuting us in a certain way. Why are people in the West who have probably a nice house and all comforts feeling lonely? They would not feel lonely if they were to be free of the clutches of their memories. Many of them had some relationships, spouses or colleagues or some other you know, family or at work, and because of such high degree of individualism that is generally promoted, especially in the Western culture, where even young boys and girls learn to say, I live my life, don't interfere, and so on. You know, I don't say the Eastern culture is superior. In Eastern culture, we are asked to suppress many of our sentiments actually. For example, a 32-year-old girl is marrying, let us say. In the Eastern culture also, whatever be the culture, the girl may not want everybody to attend her marriage. She may have preferences who should come to her marriage, who should not. But in the Eastern culture where you and I have grown up, the girl would typically keep quiet because parents decide, uncles decide, grandfather and grandmother decides who should attend the wedding, and she quietly, goes ahead. In the West, many of you may be knowing nowadays it is so common that people who have gone from India, experience this. Their daughter or their son is marrying, and the parents, the NRI parents, are very excited and they want to call so many. But the daughter or the son says, Mom, Dad, it's my wedding, not yours. Please do not forget it. And since it is my wedding, I should have complete control on who will come to this wedding and who will not. Don't call all those Indian friends of yours, and so on. This happens. This has become more and more common. So I tried to explain what is this individualism. Individualistic tendency is in all human beings. Everybody wants their own way. But certain cultures suppress it. Certain cultures give, all liberty. So memories. One would have enjoyed the friendship of somebody. One would have enjoyed the intimacy. One would have enjoyed so much of exchanges, given and taken things. And now, for whatever reason, one doesn't have that association anymore. Friends or former spouse or former assistant has not only left us, but they left with certain bitterness. They left leaving behind a bad taste in the mouth. And sometimes we hear that they are talking ill of us. Now, that is what causes a tremendous sense of being unworthy. So, loneliness is the product of certain memories, which in turn cause certain conclusions. I would dare say that human happiness is when, for right or wrong reasons, we feel on top of the world. And human sorrow is when, for right or wrong reasons, we feel we are no good. You know, when our own mind says, I am a horrible creature, I am such a terrible person, no wonder my wife left me. No wonder my colleagues did not want to work anymore with me. No wonder people said, you are brilliant, but namaste, we don't want to be in your team. In this way, suppose people reacted, then we feel so low. Many Nobel Prize winners feel utterly lonely, and many people who hit the headlines with corporate success or whatever other success feel very lonely because even as the world applauds their success, people who worked with them have kept a distance from them, and they don't want to come back. Therefore, I have gone about the topic as I always do in a rather random fashion. Can we say, and my friends Harshad ji, Milind ji, and others can throw more light on this, can we say loneliness is that sense psychologically, that psychological sense where we feel rejected, where we feel not accepted, where because of our habits which are questionable. Sometimes we have habits which are very questionable, very unfair habits, very unreasonable habits. What I mean is, suppose any of us, you know, expects everybody to praise us. Some of us, let's say, are habituated to receiving some praise every day, at least twice or thrice. Somebody should say, "You are such a marvelous man. You are such a wonderful lady." In this way, suppose we are habituated to receiving appreciation, and for whatever reason, you know, some days are such, nobody has said even one thank you to us. Nobody has troubled us either. Nobody has encroached upon our space really. But if we are habituated to being praised, being acknowledged, being told how good we are, and the day comes when no one says anything of that sort, then we are in trouble. So, look at this. We human beings are strange creatures. On one hand, we feel that we are very intelligent, and till COVID began, we almost every day said somewhere or the other that we have conquered nature. Now nobody says that. Now everybody says nature is teaching us a lesson. Nature is the master. There was some piece there which came other day. The summary lesson of COVID-19 is nature speaks to us saying, look, man being man and woman, humanity, look, human beings, do not forget anymore. You are guests here. You are guests here. I am the host. Nature is saying to humanity. Somebody expressed it so well. Anyway, we human beings are proud of a lot of things that we know. We are proud of our knowledge, but we are so dependent on being told that we are good people, we are successful people, you know. Let me, as I'm drawing my few words to a close, let me say many of these people who have come out of IITs or AIMS or some other reputed people, they are more likely to feel lonely. You know why? Because they went to some reputed institutions and family members and others praised them. Our daughter is studying in Kanpur IIT. Our son has passed, from um, IIT Bombay, etc. The parents and relatives sometimes spoil this lady or man. These people get it into the head, and they are so used to being looked at as some special creatures. And then, alas, in that what we may call a dullness of their mind, in that mechanicalness of their mind, for whenever we get used to something and we just want repetition of it, our mind becomes mechanical. Our mind does not anymore have the suppleness, the flexibility, the agility to quickly reassess any situation. Mind becomes dull and mechanical. Therefore, I would say that people who have been praised for right reasons or without any reason get used to that. And so, can I say that when our mind becomes mechanical and has increased sense of dependence on praise, on acceptance, on somebody telling us I am a good man, you know, to feel good, imagine I depend on somebody to say I am good. Isn't it a terrible condition? You know, to to feel I look okay, even the mirror doesn't help. Two or three people have to tell me, in this dress, with this new tie, with this new something, you look so good. Unless two or three people tell me I look good, imagine I feel very low and I feel very doubtful. I have self-doubt. Am I looking okay? Can I go in this dress to the get together, to the party? Or do I look like a buffoon? Suppose I have self-doubt. That's a miserable condition. So I will conclude saying these two remarks. One is loneliness is the psychological condition where memories of certain associations which we had enjoyed at one time make us feel so low because those associations are no more valid. Those people are no more in touch with us. Those people have probably joined hands with somebody else, and we wish they were with us, even whether it is they or even single person. So it is the memory of associations enjoyed, and then we are missing them. And second comment I make is, which is an extension of the first, loneliness is a certain sense of being rejected by others, being labeled as you are not okay. But both these dimensions are certain conclusions of the self, and this self is of very, very questionable credentials. This self is to be questioned. Next time you and I feel lonely and we take a look at it, and then the inside of that loneliness is, yeah, nobody respects me now, nobody wants me. We have to inquire. Hold on, who is saying this? I know, I'm saying, I know that. Who is this I? What is this? Why is this thought here? So we take a look at that thought. We take a look at the stance that the self has taken. The self takes a position. The self, on one fine morning, says, yes, I am now gone. Nobody wants me. Hold on. Dear self, you may address the self. Dear self, you are saying this morning nobody wants you. How dare you say that? On what basis do you say that? I'm dramatizing a little bit. Really speaking, you don't have to dramatize in that fashion. This is by way of the narration. But in actual terms, all we need to do is to gently be with the self, not neither to accept the moaning and the crying of the self, nor to simply suppress that. Rather, see it, feel it, be with it. As they say, be with what is. That is observation, that at once is inquiry. Therefore, we use words like self-observation, self-awareness, self-inquiry. Many words are used. We are not to get stuck with any word per se, but there is certainly an operation of intelligence. In the operation of intelligence, the self, which is suffering from loneliness, gets exposed. The self getting exposed in the present context implies the falsity of loneliness gets exposed. Loneliness is false propaganda. Loneliness is false publicity given to something which doesn't exist. Nobody among us really is lonely, but the process of thought is busy doing this propaganda. Therefore, saying this, that it is a certain psychological phenomenon which needs to be questioned, inquired into, or watched, whatever you like. Let me pause and request my friends to take this further. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chidananji. You are here up to 7:30? Are you here up to
7:50.
7:30? 7:15?
नहीं नहीं,
So,
सवा सात तक हूँ मैं.
okay,
कुछ
I got
engagement
it.
है.
I got it. I got it. So should I start question and answer session right now? And then,
As you like. You are the master of ceremonies.
okay. Thank you, sir. So everybody is welcome to ask a question, and then we will be seeing others. Dinesh Wagmare wanted to ask something.
बोलिए दिनेश जी.
सर मेरा प्रश्न ये है इसमें, I want to ask one thing. In this, whether the thought involved has more intellectual component or feeling component? Because Harshad Parikh sir also liked the song. There is a song, जिंदगी के सफर में जो गुजर जाते मकाम वो फिर नहीं आते. So I think it is the sadness or unhappiness is more involved in this, and that is having a more feeling component. So to tackle the feeling, it's not that easy to just to see and just to get rid of it, because lot of frustration is involved and then it may convert into depression also. So what do you have to say on this?
Are you asking me whether loneliness has more of intellectual dimension or emotional dimension? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And how to, if it is intellectual, then what will be the solution? If it is more emotional, then what will be the solution?
Sure.
Solution. We are also discussing solution here.
Sure. So, intellect and emotion, there are these two. And in loneliness, primarily it is the intellect which initiates the process. Because the intellect, rightly or wrongly, gives the judgment that I am now not in demand. I am not required over there. They are all having a party and they don't want me there. So the intellect comes to a judgment. Whether those people really do not want me, God knows. So then the emotion follows. Moment the intellect declares that I am no more wanted in some kind of get together, the emotional side has a sad song to sing. Now, if you examine this literature on emotional intelligence by Daniel Goleman and others, they have said repeatedly that thought and feeling, here thought means the intellect's work. You know, thought is judgments of the intellect. So thought and feeling are mutually related. A certain thought leads to a certain emotion, and certain emotion then causes some particular thoughts. In the Vedanta, we have a very widespread example. A rope is mistaken for a snake. Now, in dim light, I look at something at a distance and I think it is a rope. Sorry, it's a snake. I think it's a snake. So, who says it's a snake? It's the intellect. The intellect says, hey, there is a snake. Then the emotional side of it is, fear. That fear arises following the conclusion by the intellect that there is a snake. Now, once fear has risen, that fear further produces a number of thoughts. What shall I do? Shall I run? The intellect says that's the best thing to do. Run without any delay. Run away from here. Or somebody's intellect may say, no, take a stick or walk a little far away from that snake. So, my simple answer is loneliness too is a, back and forth movement between some false conclusion and certain negative emotions. The negative emotions then leading to further false conclusions, false conclusion in the realm of intellect, and negative emotions in the realm of the heart. So, head and heart are mutually supporting and leading us to uh, any kind of loneliness. They may snowball into a huge, crisis of feeling lonely. Or sometimes, if the intellect is a little bit awake, the whole thing can taper off, and one can get out of it also.
Solution?
Solution is, as we said towards the end of presentation, neither be stuck with intellect nor with feeling. Stand apart from both and look at what the intellect is saying and look at what emotion the heart is raising. And if you examine them carefully, you will see that the conclusions of the intellect have certain questionable dimension, and the emotions of this emotional side have certain, silliness about them, childishness about them. Somebody doesn't say good morning to me and I feel like crying, let us say. It's childish. Why should I depend on anybody's good morning, right? So there is certain childishness, immaturity about our emotions, and there is certain incorrectness about the conclusions of the intellect. So when we say let the intelligence operate, I'm using the word intelligence as a separate thing. Intelligence looks at the intellect, looks at emotions. Both it can assess, without any bias. Therefore, in one word, Dinesh ji, the solution is unbiased observation of the working of both head and heart.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Jain Saab, anybody else?
Harishankar
Harishankar.
Iyer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Siddharth ji,
Yes.
I've got this question.
Ah.
You were talking about it's a feeling of being rejected. So
Yeah.
that was a fundamental reason why you feel lonely. Okay. So but, I would like to narrate a personal experience. Okay. There was a time some 10 years back, I was in the US with my family. Of course, the family had to come back for some reason. Then I was alone for about 2 months there. So I used to be alone. There was nobody to interact. Of course, it's a big society. People say hi, bye, everything. That and all is okay. But internally, there was nobody to talk to. So I felt that I am lonely. That was the first time I ever felt lonely. It's not that I hated anybody there or thing. So it was a peculiar feeling. I myself do not know why I had that feeling. But after some time, we all returned to India. Then, of course, it's our home country. Then here also, as far as my that movement or interaction with others are concerned, there is not much change. It's the same. But here, that loneliness has vanished. So my question is, uh, your external behavior or people around you or not around you, that doesn't change. But your alien country and your own home country, that ambience itself changed your feeling of being lonely and not. So my basic interference from this is love or security has got any relation to feeling lonely? That's my question, sir.
Ah, ah, ah. I guess there is a connection between loneliness and this absence of security. Um, what is the other word you used? Security and um, whatever. In the Western countries, because of heightened individualism, there is this problem. Nobody feels security there in a general way. The law is enacted or law is executed, law is maintained much better there. But otherwise, people don't feel secure there. They don't feel that other people in general care for you. Whereas here, that's one positive side of the Eastern culture, whether it is forced on you or otherwise. In normal times, at least, everybody thinks your life is their business. In the Western countries, people are trained to mind their own business, and somebody else's life is not their business. Or everybody, you are, let's say, already 55-year-old, but your parents still feel they should decide many things for you. right? So it has both plus and minus side. And the plus side is you feel a certain sense of security because other people seem to take your life as their business. The plus side of it is when somebody thinks your life is their business, there's a sense of security there. If you are in, let's say, multiple apartments in an apartment complex, everybody just minds their own business, though, don't even care to find out whether you woke up and came out one day or not. That's a terrible condition. That's how the westernized society works. Whereas in the way in Eastern, culture has grown, if somebody is not up, everybody would wonder, why has he not come out yet? That person may not be related to you. Therefore, not real security, but it's a semblance of security is in the air in the Eastern societies. I believe in the United States also, the blacks and Hispanics, etc., have an increased sense of security because there everybody's business is everybody else's business as well. Whereas the whites, Caucasians have always promoted, you know, just mind your business and so on.
Just
But they
adding,
have their strengths. You have lived there, Yeah, tell me, please.
yeah, just adding to that point. In fact, it's not that when you are lonely, you look for so many people to come and comfort you. All you are craving that time is just one person, another one
Correct,
human
correct,
being in the entire world.
correct.
If they are for you, then the entire country looks different. So I could see that this is the problem with most of the nuclear families. Each one is dependent on their husband or wife or one child here and there, and not many other relatives. Most of the time we are alone, or we have got one person to cling on,
Yeah.
but that is good enough. Apparently, maybe the entire Chinese society, most of the people have one kids, only one child, but that is good enough to overcome the loneliness. So, what a human being is doing something wrong fundamentally, why he is dependent on that one person to change his entire relationship with the world. Because when you are lonely, your relation is cut off with the world. But when you are not feeling lonely, your relationship is very healthy with everything else. That seems to be a kind of a problem. Maybe I don't know the process or something. Some internal dialogue has to happen that one need not feel lonely. As somebody asked, is there a solution for it? Of course, it may be a wrong question, but the solution in the sense, what kind of, maybe at the expense of being conditioned, if there is a solution, then many people can lead a life peacefully at their, the fag end, maybe 80 years, 90 years. You at least are comfortable with yourself. Sometimes you don't love yourself because nobody else loves me, so I cannot love myself. Is that a problem, sir?
I would say that in general, whether we depend on many or cling to a single person, um, in the context of teachings of Krishnaji, J. Krishnamurti, any dependence is a bondage. And any dependence, actually, if you scratch the surface, is nothing but dependence on the memories. You know. So, in the case of what you described, somebody clinging to just one person, maybe a spouse. So, this person who depends on just one person, like the spouse, is reliving those memories. For years and years, this person has been with me, has listened to me, has spoken to me, has nursed me when I was sick, and I nursed him or her when he or she was sick, and so on. All these memories. So, whether the memories revolving around one person become the ground of loneliness, or the memories connected to many people become the ground, become the soil where loneliness flourishes, makes no difference philosophically. We are inquiring, can we be independent? Okay. Can we be, free of the demands of those memories? I think we may go over to Harshad ji now, or anyone else for that matter.
Please,
Sushil ji.
please, Harshad ji, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Parik sir,
okay.
please go ahead.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir. Very
Okay.
clearly.
Yes. When I was a teacher in Sayadri school, I saw 3 girls. They were walking. 2 girls were walking ahead, and 1 girl was behind them. And this little girl who was behind, she was saying to, to the other girls, I know you are talking about me. And she was feeling lonely. So I have seen this feeling of loneliness among children in Rishi Valley and everywhere, because it's a human feeling. Everybody feels lonely at some time in their life. And it's true that in America, USA, people feel more lonely because they they don't have a close relationship. It's mostly business like relationship. And I read somewhere that the population of America is 340 million people, but the number of guns, revolver are 400 million. It means almost everybody has a revolver to protect. And that shows that there is a fear and violence in a developed country. So I myself have felt tremendous loneliness in my life when I first went to America. And my mind used to think about so many problems, personal problem. And when you are so much thinking about your own problems, then you really don't see much around you. And you feel very lonely, and you even don't know that you are lonely. But when I came across a book of Krishnamurti, and he says, you are the world, what is happening inside you, the same thing is happening everywhere psychologically. And I was feeling lonely in a different culture because of my different culture. And I was not able to relate with people. There was a fear, a language problem, and many other problems of nationalistic conditioning and religious conditioning and all that. But when I begin to observe the world around me in America after reading Krishnamurti, I felt that yes, it is true that Americans were lonely in their own country and there is no relationship in the family. So people try to escape from loneliness by watching films or music or football, and it goes on like that. Only people who realize that there is a loneliness and one has to see it clearly for oneself. And of course, there are many reasons why loneliness. Sometimes it comes through comparison, like sometimes a single person who is not married, and when he sees a married couple and they are enjoying, then this man who is single, he feels that how happy they are. And this single man, he begins to feel lonely because he has no companion. And so there are many reasons for this loneliness. Comparison is one of that. And too much occupation with our own problems. The mind is not really free to look at itself very clearly. And I am very fond of Hindi songs, and these Hindi songs also expresses this feeling of loneliness. There are so many. When you are attached to somebody, a man or a woman, and that person is not with you, then you feel very lonely. So there is one song, Ye Sham Ki Tanhaiya, Aise Mein Tera Gum. That is an old song. And तुम न जाने किस जहां में खो गए, हम बड़ी दुनिया में तन्हा हो गए. So sometimes we are surrounded by people, but we miss somebody and we feel lonely even when there are people around us. And there are so many songs, and there are some songs like Chal Akela. It says that walk alone. Um, Even if nobody gives you any cooperation, you have to find the love within yourself. And so aloneness is something different than loneliness. Aloneness is a wonderful feeling when you are all by yourself and your mind is really free, and you are just looking, and you are enjoying without anything, just looking at nature or listening to music, and you feel the connection with many people. Even when these people are far away, you feel very happy, because love is, it it doesn't require that you should be close physically to somebody, but it is that psychological feeling of love. So you can think about your friend who is in America or Europe or other countries, and when you think and you really feel very happy, you create happiness for yourself. So we need to learn at a young age how to be alone and happy. And so we like our own company. And then we can also relate when people are around us. If there is the freedom to be alone, then there is no loneliness. And there is one song which also I like, लड़कपन खेल में खोया, जवानी नींद भर सोया, बुढ़ापा देखकर रोया, वही किस्सा पुराना है. So our life, we become very lonely when we become old and all our friends are gone, and we feel very lonely because we have really not looked at a deeper cause for this loneliness and to be free. So I also, when I talk with students in culture classes in Rishi Valley or Sayadri School, I talk about what it means to be alone and to be happy. And it is possible for us to create happiness by doing nothing. And there are people like Gandhiji or Nehru, they were in the jail, they were alone, they used their time creatively, they wrote many books. Aurobindo was in jail. But so when you are really interested in this spiritual journey, then being alone, it can really help to look inside and find the solution of all our psychological problems. And I was alone in America, and I came across Krishnamurti book, and I was doing research, of course. I had very few friends, but I had lots of time to look at what Krishnamurti was saying inside me. And I found, yes, it's wonderful that we create problem for ourselves when we are not aware of how these thoughts are arising. And from this thought, arises this feeling of I or me, and then this I or me wants something, and then there is a duality starts. So marvelous teachings are there, not only Krishnamurti, but other teachings, which can take you deep within ourselves and find our connection with the world. And we really feel that you are the world. And then there is no loneliness because the world, there is an outside world and there is an inside world. And when there are no thinking, no desiring, no sense of I, there is a real sense of love and beauty which comes. And this is something very, very important to learn at a young age. Otherwise, after people retire, they feel very lonely and they want company, and people don't want to give them company. And so they feel very lonely. They feel rejected. So it is possible to be alone physically and really connect with the whole world. Okay, finished. Thank you very much.
So, sir, my question is, do you feel that feeling is first and then the intellect comes later, and outer situation also is not the cause of this?
You are asking me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, everything is coming from thinking. Even most of our feelings are coming from thinking, thought, origin, and it comes from memory. And then it gets trapped into its own web of thinking. And then all these problems like loneliness, fear, anger comes. But there is a dimension which is different than thinking and feeling. And that dimension is what Krishnamurti calls choiceless awareness, which can look at thinking, what the thinking is doing, and then we can really see the beginning of all the problems. And then when we see it through awareness, then that seeing is the action. The action, perception is the action, as Krishnamurti says. So ultimately, it comes to looking at ourselves very, very deeply, how these thoughts and feelings are arising. And we ask these questions through thinking, but then it doesn't solve. There is a non-verbal looking. As long as that has not happened, this non-verbal looking at whether the objects outside or the thoughts and feeling inside, we get trapped into asking many questions also. And we can get answers also, but that will not solve problems. So this another dimension which Krishnamurti is talking about. That is the key which will solve our problems of loneliness or fear or anger or jealousy. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir. Milind More, sir. Milind More, sir. Would you please go ahead? Milind More, sir.
Yes, yes.
Please, sir.
Thank you, Chidanand ji and Harshit ji, for your words. And namaskar to everyone. I think I'll just flow with the conversations from what various speakers have just touched upon. Maybe I could just begin with what Harshit ji said about the sense of happiness. And I see that, it's a state where there is a less sense of I, you see, a state of happiness, a state of joy, a state of, these are the states where generally you will find, if one observes oneself, that the sense of I is kind of, put on the side. But when I'm with something which is opposite, say a sense of conflict or a sense of, any other emotion or a feeling like sense of envy or greed or violence, there is a very strong sense of I comes in. So there, you can clearly see the distinction between the two in terms of the state of mind that we are in. And in a way, isn't this a state of division in my mind? And from where is that state of division coming? because this is a matter of my daily activities. It is a matter of everything that I do in my life, uh, and how I do it. Do I do it with a sense of division, or do I do with a sense of oneness? And as I see the things around, as one sees things around, starting with your own self, where most of my activities are self-centered, or most of my activities start with that sense of division between me and the world around me. Most of the activities begin somewhere over there, and it moves on to the sense of family, my family versus the other family. It moves on to the community level, my community versus the other community, and so on. I mean, you have state level issues. I mean, if we look at our boundaries, the way human beings have created, moving on to the national boundaries, and also global groups. You have G7, G8, and so on. And now the man is going to Mars and, you know, other planets. And very soon you will have groups of that kind also, you know, the nations which are able to go to Mars and the nations which are only able to go to Moon. So the point here is that somewhere it is connected to this understanding of the state of mind, the way I'm seeing things around me, the state of happiness in which perhaps there is a lesser sense of I, and a state of conflict in which there is a bigger sense of I. And this state of division is something it's, I think, interesting to look at. And in fact, some of the speakers talked about, say, for example, thing like craving. Somebody used the word craving. It's basically a desire. Now, where is it? Where is it emerging from? I think it's a very important question. And as Swamiji also touched upon that, the basic crux lies in how we look at things. You know, do I look at it, look at the world around me in a state of comparison, in a state of identifying myself with something, or I'm kind of, you know, I find myself condemning or justifying things around me. Now, these are the things which are defining my world. These are the things which are defining our world. I mean, if we examine our lives, this is the fact, right? So can I look at these things closely as to why and how they arise? Why do I tend to identify with a certain things which actually is dividing me with the rest of the world? So this is a basic question. And of course, it is linked to what Swamiji talked about, individualism, which is very much part of our modern civilization, whether in the West or now even in the East, where we talk about family values. They are on the verge of now breaking down, and we are in the process of kind of you know, seeing how that individualism of the modern society is getting into our system as well. So so all these things what we see, aren't they primarily centered around our own self centeredness? And I think that is where can we look at it closely as to why this sense of division which comes. uh, I remember listening to someone who's talked about, or even in Krishnaji and David Bohm's talk, they talked about the turning point. You know, they hinted towards the point at which the human brain started having the capacity to think, started having the capacity to have memories. Prior to that, or that was a point maybe when human beings started getting involved themselves in agriculture system or in an agrarian society. Prior to that was a hunter-gatherers society where there was a certain sense of oneness with nature. There was a certain relationship with nature, and one still sees remnants of it in the tribal societies of today. And there are a lot of lessons to learn from them. Vis-a-vis, how our own individualistic society has turned out to be, where what I am bothered about is only about myself. You see, so so this is needs to be questioned as to how this division has come about, and is it a matter of a solution-oriented approach? Because I heard few speakers looking at finding solutions. So can I understand this with a solution-oriented mindset? I have my doubts, because when you're seeking solution, it is from the same mind which has created these problems. So Krishnaji has actually pointed out at something else, and he's talked about seeing. He's talked about what Harshaji also mentioned about passive awareness. Uh, he's talked about seeing without the words, and I think in the context of last many sessions that we have all attended, many of us, we have talked about the art of seeing, the art of looking, dying to things around us, you see, on a day-to-day basis or moment-to-moment basis. And can you be with the freshness of the things as they are, linking it up with what is and not moving away from what is? So does that involve any thinking on our part, or can I see it directly? Can I perceive it directly is a question. So I thought these are the questions in my mind. And when I perceive that directly, uh, all aspects, the way we have divided our society between family, community, state, nation, global, all these things can actually collapse when there is no sense of this division. I mean, that's the way I perceive it, because anywhere in between, if you have a solution oriented mind, and there are dime a dozen, in fact most of the humanity is doing that, to find solutions to everything. And it is not exactly a solution, we're just changing the form of it, but it remains same. We keep repeating the same things again and again. And as Swamiji said, that the things are mechanical in that sense. So we are just repeating everything again and again with a solution oriented mindset. So it's going to lead to only this, what we are searching or what we are seeking for. So can we stop seeking is another question. And can, in that state of mind, I see that there is a problem within myself? Can I look that within myself and see the division and why the division is happening, whether it is to do with security, whether it is to do with desire, whether it is to do with the very thought process, which may also be called as fear, as Krishnji pointed out, whether it is that. And somewhere I feel that that's where the seeing is involved. That is where the observation is involved. That is where the passive awareness is involved, and that may reveal something. Yeah. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for listening me out.
Thank you very
Here
much.
can I ask question, sir?
Sure.
More, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, is it to do with lack of support or lack of feeling of inadequacy in oneself? Because when I'm young, I'm energetic, I feel confident. At that time, this loneliness doesn't come into picture. But as soon as I feel I'm cornered, or I'm not able to cope up with the situation in a proper way, or nobody supporting me, then all of a sudden this loneliness comes into picture. Say in the old age, or in some situations in young age also, when I feel cornered or not able to tackle the things in a proper way. What do you have to say?
Yes, I would point out to the same thing about a state of mind from where this question is coming. Am I comparing myself with something? Am I identifying myself with something? Am I condemning or justifying something? The question is coming from there about my loneliness, as to why I feel lonely. So I need to inquire whether, sorry.
I am not simply feeling inadequate to cope up with the situation. I am feeling lack of support, or I am not confident of tackling the situation.
So again, this is a question with a solution-oriented mindset. You're seeking solution. Can we shift the question and be with the loneliness, for example, or be with the question, and it may reveal something. And many times we find that solutions come without actually us running after them. How do they come?
Actually, loneliness is always associated with individuality, isn't it, sir?
Yes, sir. That's what I said. It's individualism.
That is a part of nature. That is a part of nature.
We have to explore this, sir. I mean, do we call self-division or any divisions as part of nature? If we view nature as that, and that is what the modern society has done, where we say that the nature is there for the man's requirement, that means it is something separate from me. So that very basic way of looking at it has created the situation in which we are today. But if I say, no, the nature is not different from me, I am part of the nature, and I take care that whatever my relationship with nature in terms of whatever I need, I see to it that there is no damage being done to the earth. I just use what I need to use for. Then there is a totally different relationship, you see.
Sir, may I request Durga Rani ji to ask the question? Durga Rani ji, please. Please ask your question. Go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Actually, I appreciate all the speakers, and like all three of them have come out with very nice, share their understanding so very well. And like Mr. Milind, just has said a very valuable point actually. First of all, we can accept loneliness is a fact of life for most of us, at least. Every person on this earth at some time or the other in their lifetimes, they go through this loneliness. There is no running away from it. And rather than running away from it, if we start finding going into it, why it is so, what are the reasons for one being lonely? Like every strong emotion can be a trigger for one to go into oneself. If that can be explored, so maybe it can tell its own story. That's one point I would like to add. And if we come back to Krishnaji's books, so he always associates loneliness and aloneness. These are the two major phrases, like major you can say movements we can find in his books. He says aloneness is when one is in harmony with everything around, with every creature and with every life around, not only with human beings. So there is no conflict whatsoever. So that is a state when one doesn't feel lonely. Then maybe he is alone by himself, but he doesn't, that lonely feeling, that haunting feeling, the oppressed feeling is not there. So for all purposes, the person may look lonely, but maybe he is happy, he is contented, he has no issues, because he has found out that harmony with everything around. So that's a beautiful way Krishnaji portrays. But I wonder how many of us can be into that state. Regarding this loneliness, I also would like to add one point. Like he says, life is relationship. When one doesn't have the relationship with the life around, with the people around, I think that loneliness keeps getting escalated. With his when one is so actually everything boils down to how self-centered one is. So it all boils down to how selfish. I think all the presenters, they have stressed upon that. So lonely when one doesn't have relationship with other things, other human beings, or anything in life, maybe loneliness becomes crystallized and becomes a big problem. So this is one issue I just would like to add. And other than that, I think Mr. Milind has rightly summarized. Like rather than finding out solutions, it's an opportunity to explore, to find out, to go into oneself. That's all I would like to contribute. Thank you very much.
Any question?
I think I want to say something here. Madam has used a very good word, harmony in relationship. Now this harmony in relationship is really very important as far as my observation goes. Now this harmony in relationship, harmony, is it a feeling or is it a what? Is it an intellectual thing or is it a perception or what? Arshad Parekh, sir.
Yeah, yes. No, it is not a feeling. Harmony is a sense of being being without thinking. There is no sense of I in that.
It is a state of being.
Yes, it's a state of being and non-verbal. The whole thing is non-verbal, but we make it when thought arises, thinking, is made up of words, language, and memory. And from that, the sense of I comes. And then there is a division between the thinker and thought. And this duality between thinker and thought, that is the source of all our psychological problems. This is what I learned from Krishnamurti, and I verified it. Yes, it is like that. Now, how can one verify it? So to verify it, one has to be initially alone and very, very curious, attentive, and direct the attention inward. And then one can feel that there is nothing coming, no thought. It's like a psychological death. At that point, many people feel frightened of a sense of not being, and so they don't want to look. They escape and involve into some other activity. But a person is not afraid to look. And then there's real direct learning happens by your own looking, and then you don't need to read any book. The book of your own life, it tells you everything, how the thoughts are arising, how the feelings are arising. And even then thoughts and feelings can arise, but when this awareness is there, it doesn't create any problem. The thoughts, they come and go. They don't create any problem. But when there is this awareness watching, non-verbal watching is not there, then this thinking creates many conflicts and many, many undesirable feelings and thoughts which come in our life. So the real thing is this choiceless awareness of what Krishnamurti is talking about, which is non-verbal, and that is the freedom at the beginning also. So that can come if when a person is really curious and not afraid to look within. So our problem is there is a
Katyani
fear.
madam wanted to ask a question. Katyani madam, please go ahead, Katyani. And then Harisankar Iyer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you
You are
so much
audible.
for thank you so much for the insightful talk. It's simply beautiful. I just want to add a comment. I think everything revolves around how we look at ourselves and how we handle things, even if there is a vacuum inside us, it's still how, again, what Harshad ji was talking about, choiceless awareness, and it's more of self-inquiry. And the more we look at ourselves and how we conduct ourselves and how we see the beauty of solitude as opposed to being really lonely, then there is a minimal sense of loneliness and more a sense of joy within us that we're trying to explore and being more consciously aware of it. So that's my comment, and I'm just thankful for the beautiful discussion on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harisankar Iyer.
Yes, sir.
Harisankar Iyer, please go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, this question I would like to direct to Milind More Saab as well as Harshad ji. So you touched upon few points about why we feel lonely. So apparently you have in a way indirectly alluded to the fact that we are self-centered most of the time, and our self-centered activity, the way we conduct ourselves and we relate with the world around us, that is primarily responsible for us to feel lonely. So having said that, I'm just trying to reconcile this particular thing. Yes, looking for love, loving somebody, or being loved, can this be in any way attributed as a self-centered activity? Because apparently the person who loves others or the one who is being loved, he never feels lonely at any point. So it gives me the question, this very simple act of being in love with somebody or being loved, it removes the loneliness from the field around that particular human, at least. So can this in any way be construed as a self-centered activity? That is number one. Number two, I'm coming across many people now in Western countries, it's all the more prevalent. People have dogs in their homes, and sometimes one or two dogs. They do not have any human to relate to, but they've got a few dogs to relate to. And apparently, the love and affection which a non-human but a living entity is showing is also removing the part of loneliness. So, loving a dog or the dog wagging its tail when he or she looks at you, apparently we cannot attribute any self-centered activity here because the dog's love is unconditional. So the self-centered activity is not there. So what is left out, what remains is love, correct?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
is that the fundamental solution or fundamental dilemma we all have? When we look for love also, then there is apparently a color being put over it saying that that could also be a self-centered activity. It involves some desire, attachment, validation, and all those things. But if you remove the human element from that, even just plain animals. So is love the answer to the loneliness? That's my question, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Love and attachment, they are quite opposite to each other. Attachment means that you are depending on somebody and you want somebody to love you. And when that person doesn't love you, then you feel lonely. So that is, attachment is not love, because attachment creates anger, jealousy, fear, loneliness. All this comes from attachment. But love is something in which there is no sense of this person, I, who is loving. It is a state of being. So a person may be walking alone in nature and feels wonderful, is harmony with nature. And also the same way, a person can love many, many people without expecting anything. And that is a real freedom, I feel, that there is no sense of I. So Krishnamurti also says love exists when the self is not. So our problems comes from the sense of self, me, I, important, and that creates many problems. Okay, finish.
So, sir, you mean to say that freedom is very important in relationship?
Yes, yes, yes. Then we are really related in freedom. Otherwise, it is just give and take kind of a business. You give me this, I give you that. That is, it is not love, I think.
Thank you.
Would you please conclude now? It is already 7:28. Sir, so if you like to conclude, please conclude it in 2 minutes so that we can finish this session.
Milind
sir?
sir like to conclude?
No,
Okay. Is
Venkat
Milind sir
Mohan
like
is asking, sorry, sir. Venkat Mohan is asking a question. Let us answer Venkat Mohan questions. Venkat Mohan, please go ahead. Venkat Mohan, please go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. This is my first attendance at this meeting, and I liked it a lot. I just want to say only few sentences. See, there is loneliness. Some people want to remove that loneliness by seeking a company or friendship and other things. Whereas people who read Krishnamurti and other things want to end loneliness through understanding like ego is the reason or go for choiceless awareness and observe yourself. Materialist and seeker is also basically want to end loneliness. I think that precisely is the problem. We don't see loneliness is the very nature of things, and we want to do all kinds of things to move away from that. We should see that is the way it works like that. But what is the way out? Not to identify ourselves with that loneliness. We are more than that loneliness. Your discussion is good. This is just what I wanted to add. Thanks a lot.
Harsha sir, please conclude.
Yes, so I just conclude in one sentence that in the light of awareness, all problems created by thinking and feeling, they are dissolved. This is a Krishnamurti sentence, but I feel that yes, there is human beings are capable of rising above the plane of thinking and feeling and looking at thinking and feeling from a different dimension. And in that, whatever is coming within us, it can be seen very clearly. And then even if there is some anger is coming or fear coming, and looking is possible, and then it goes away. So one can even look at animals frightening us like a snake or a tiger if you are walking, and you can look without fear coming. So this is, I'm speaking from my experience that I have looked without thinking at all these things, and it's a wonderful way to, in that, if there is any problem, any fear is coming, it can be seen also, fear. It doesn't mean complete freedom, but whatever problems are coming are seen very clearly, and then they don't create more problems. And that seeing dissolves the problem. This is what I conclude, that this choiceless, effortless, ongoing awareness, which Krishnamurti is talking about, we cannot decide to be aware. And it can happen when we are really, really deeply. This is the most important thing in our life than earning money or becoming famous or having relationship or something like, or getting a lottery. There is a treasure buried within us. This choiceless awareness is like that treasure. In that light, life becomes very happy, healthy, creative every day. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much. Thanks to every guest speaker. Thanks to every participant. Kamlesh, please close it.